Imagine you are building a monument for eternity, but the price is your soul. Cologne Cathedral is a masterpiece of Gothic architecture, but for centuries, people in Cologne have whispered a dark truth. If this cathedral is ever finished, the world will end. The legend surrounding Cologne Cathedral could fill entire film series. That's why, in this video, we'll focus on the two most famous myths before diving into the true history. It all began in 1248, 800 years ago, with Gerhard von Riehle, the first master builder. The task was so gargantuan that Gerhard almost went mad. Then the devil appeared and proposed a wager. "I will build an aqueduct from the Eiffel to Cologne, and I'll do it faster than you can finish this cathedral." Gerhard laughed. "An underground pipeline over 90 kilometers long? Impossible," he agreed. The stakes, his soul. But the devil doesn't play fair. He tricked Gerhard's wife into revealing the secret of ventilation, which was necessary for the water pressure. When Gerhard saw fresh water bubbling from the ground right next to the cathedral one day, he knew he had lost. In despair, he threw himself from the scaffolding to his death. They say the devil himself, in the form of a black dog, chased him into the abyss. But that's not the only legend. To this day, stonemasons report an invisible force. Every time one part of the cathedral is perfectly restored, a stone crumbles somewhere else. An eternal cycle of construction and decay. Why? Because the prophecy says, "Dat de Welt untergeht, wenn der Dom fertig ist," that the world will end if the cathedral is ever completed. The fact is, the cathedral stands majestically today. But is it ever truly finished? Is it an ancient curse or just the perfect excuse for a perpetual construction site? One thing is certain. After this dramatic start, the cathedral remained an unfinished ruin for over 300 years. But what followed wasn't a sudden bang. It was an infinite silence. For over 300 years, the Cologne Cathedral was nothing more than a giant ruin. To put this into perspective, while construction in Cologne came to a complete standstill in 1560, the world was changing at a breathtaking pace. Think about it. While the cathedral was slowly decaying and being overgrown by weeds, the Mayflower set sail, the 13 colonies were formed, and the United States of America fought for their independence and became a nation. Whole empires were built across the ocean, yet on the South Tower of Cologne, absolutely nothing moved. While Peter the Great was building the majestic city of St. Petersburg from nothing but marshes, and Napoleon's armies were marching across Europe, the crane in Cologne remained the sole ruler of the skyline. The money was gone, the pilgrims stopped coming, and the cathedral remained a torso of stone. The strangest part was that massive wooden crane sitting atop the stump of the tower. It was meant to be temporary, yet it stayed for centuries. It became so famous that it was the city's true landmark. Travelers didn't draw the Gothic splendor. They drew this lonely wooden gallows hovering over the city, a symbol of a project that seemed too grand for humanity. Inside, the nave was so neglected that locals used it as a warehouse or a stable. People had accepted the inevitable. The cathedral would never be finished. The prophecy seemed to be coming true, not through fire, but through being forgotten. What if the fate of a wonder of the world was decided in a dusty attic in Paris, among old beans and junk? For over 300 years, the Cologne Cathedral was a forgotten ruin. While the world changed radically, the French Revolution toppled kings. and Napoleon set Europe ablaze, the cathedral remained frozen in grime. But in 1814, the very year Napoleon was defeated, a miracle occurred. The lost blueprints of the old masters resurfaced. In the middle of Paris, it sounds like a crime thriller. A student finds a parchment roll over 4 meters long. It is the original plan of the facade from 1300. At that time, the first steam engines were already rattling in England, and the Industrial Revolution was changing everything. But this plan was like a time capsule. Suddenly, the DNA of a giant had been found, one that could finally be brought to life. The long slumber was over. At the exact moment humanity began to connect the world with railways. This time, it was no deal with the devil, but the will of a people. While the Opium War raged in far-off China and pioneers in the USA conquered the West with covered wagons, the impossible happened in Cologne in 1842. The giant rotting wooden crane hall, which had stood over the city for more than 500 years like a monument to failure, was finally dismantled. It was a symbol. The Stone Age in Cologne was over. The age of steel and unity began. The hammers of the stonemasons sang louder than any factory. After an incredible 632 years, on August 14, 1880, the final stone was placed upon the finial. The Cologne Cathedral was finished, and for a short time it was the tallest building in the world until it was overtaken by the Washington Monument and later the Eiffel Tower. A triumph of humanity over time. Or was it? After Part 1 and 2, our story reaches its dramatic turning point. The modern world was now preparing for its own destruction. In the face of the shadows of the 20th century, a haunting question arises. Was the devil right after all? An old prophecy warned, when the cathedral is finished, the world will end. Hardly was the cathedral completed in 1880 when the 20th century broke over it. In the First World War, the building was spared from bombs, but it lost its voice. The massive Prussian bell was removed from the tower and melted down, not for peace, but for cannons. A sacrilege in steel. The holy sound of the church became the deadly thunder of the front. It was the first bitter sacrifice the cathedral had to make for modern war. But that was only the prelude. In the 1930s, dark shadows fell over the land. The Nazis tried to use the cathedral for their propaganda, but for many, it remained a silent symbol of resistance. No one guessed that the worst trial was yet to come. The old prophecy from Part 3, when the cathedral is finished, the world will end, now seemed to be becoming a horrific reality, only 60 years after its completion. Imagine the scene in 1945. 95% of Cologne's old town lies in rubble and ashes. Everything is flat, a desert of debris. Only one single building rises like a black finger from the ruins, the Cologne Cathedral. It was hit by 70 heavy bombs, its windows shattered, its roof burned fiercely. But while the entire city collapsed around it, the massive towers stood firm, defying every logic of destruction. Why did it remain standing? Was it divine protection, the prayers for the 3 wise men inside, or the brilliant statics of the old masters? For the people crawling desperately out of the cellars, the sight of the towers was the only compass of hope. As long as the cathedral stands, Cologne is not dead. But the price was high. The cathedral was now a severely wounded giant. After 1945, Cologne lay in ruins, but the cathedral was still standing. It was severely wounded, With their bare hands and the simplest of means, the people of Cologne immediately began the reconstruction. It was a race against time to secure the structural integrity. Especially famous is the so-called brick plug. Since there was no suitable stone available, a huge hole in the north tower was unceremoniously patched with simple red bricks, a visible plaster on the soul of the city. It was not until 2005 that the last wartime brick plug was replaced with proper stone, yet the cathedral will never be truly finished. In Cologne, they say, when the cathedral is finished, the world will come to an end. The soft sandstone constantly fights against wind, weather, and exhaust fumes. More than 100 stonemasons, glaziers, and blacksmiths of the cathedral workshop work day after day to preserve the giant. Every year, millions of euros flow into this multi-generational promise. Since 1996, the cathedral has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is not just a church, but a masterpiece of human endurance. Standing at 157 meters, it was once the tallest building in the world. Today, it attracts more than 20,000 people from all over the world every day. They come not only to pray, but to feel the sheer energy of this place, which was under construction for 600 years and survived 2 world wars. Today, the cathedral stands for more than just religion. It is the heart of Cologne and a symbol of cosmopolitanism. Whether at large concerts, light installations against hatred, or as a peaceful guardian over the carnival, it connects people. When the lights on the Rhine kiss the black stone, you can feel it. This cathedral is the soul of a city that never gives up. Cologne Cathedral is much more than just a building. It is a living monument to human perseverance, faith, and the tireless ability to constantly reinvent itself.